Hello and welcome to another episode of Truth from the Trail. I am here in Pennsylvania at Caledonia State Park. The Appalachian Trail goes right through it. It's directly behind me. In fact, during this you may see a hiker or two walk behind me. But I got off the trail just long enough to share with you a story today. It's been a couple of days of interesting hiking, days of contrast. Yesterday, it was fairly easy, 8.5 miles, some nice pathway, lush fern fields, and just wasn't real bad. Today, on the other hand, I've been just a little over 10 miles. I have a few more miles to go before I reach the place where I'm going to spend the night. It has been rocks after rocks after rocks. Some really sketchy rock scramble passages, and just keeps things lively and interesting. I am somewhere north of Penmar County Park and somewhere south of Boiling Springs, Pennsylvania, and on the Appalachian Trail, and it is a beautiful day. And it's just great to be able to sit here, take a little break, ate lunch here at Caledonia State Park, and to share a story with you out of the New Testament. I think a true story. You could decide for yourself whether or not you believe these stories. But even if you don't, like I've said before, there are great lessons to be learned in these stories. This particular story takes place when Jesus and his disciples had been doing some ministry in Galilee, and they went across the sea to a place called the land of the Gadarenes. When they arrived, Jesus got out of the boat and was immediately met by a man there who was quite an unusual man. This guy was tormented by evil spirits, demons. He had for quite some time. He did not live in a house. He lived in the tombs, the caves. He wore no clothes. He was tormented by these evil spirits, and he would torment others who passed that way. In fact, he didn't let anyone pass through there. He was incredibly fierce and just cruel to people. When they would try to catch him and subdue him, he could break any kind of bonds. He would even take chains and just tear the chains apart. No one could hold him down. But as soon as he saw Jesus, he ran and he fell at the feet of Jesus, and he said, "What do you have to do? Did you come here to torment us? Jesus, Son of the Most High God." And Jesus said, "Well, what is your name?" And the man said, "My name is Legion, for we are many. Please don't send us into the abyss." And there continued to be a dialogue between them. And the man said, "Look, nearby was a large herd of pigs." He said, allow us to go into the pigs." And Jesus gave these evil spirits permission to leave the man and go into the pigs. And that's exactly what they did. They went into these pigs, and the pigs went over a cliff and fell down into the sea, and they all drowned. Well, the herdsmen who were watching all of this take place ran back to the city to tell everyone what had happened to all of these pigs. They told people. The people came out to the countryside to see firsthand what had happened. When they got there, they saw this guy who had been living in the mountainside, living in tombs and caves. He had been moaning around the hillside, cutting himself and just terrorizing people. They got there and they saw him sitting there, calm, in his right mind, fully clothed, and it scared them. They were amazed at what they saw. They were so amazed at what they saw, they even approached Jesus and they asked him to leave. And so Jesus did just that. He and his disciples got back into the boat and proceeded to leave. The man who Jesus had cleaned him of these evil spirits went to Jesus and said, "Let me go with you." And Jesus said, "No, you stay here and tell people how good and merciful God has been to you. Tell them what's happened." And that's what he did. Jesus and his disciples moved to another place and continued their ministry. Really odd story, strange story. There are a lot of things we can learn from the story, I believe, and some that I'm going to say what I see, and then maybe a life lesson or two that you figure out for yourself. The first one, and really a sad life lesson and an obvious life lesson to me, is this guy. The Bible doesn't give us backstory. By the way, just disclaimer, this story is in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I believe it's Matthew that says there were two guys, but Mark and Luke just really focus in on this one guy who apparently was the spokesman for them. It doesn't mean it was a conflict, it just means they told a different angle of the same story. There's no real backstory. Luke says that he didn't live in a house, he lived in the tombs. Mark tells us that he ran around cutting himself and throughout the hill country, and they all said he lived in these caves, these tombs. We don't know where he came from. We don't know what his profession was before all of this. We don't know who he was. But I'm willing to bet he didn't wake up one day and say, "Gee, I think I'll go live in the tombs with bones of dead people and terrorize folks and be hated by everyone in the countryside." I don't think it happened that way. I bet it was a process, something going on in this man's life. That there was a process that led him from a normal life to living in tombs and terrorizing people and being naked. First life lesson to me is that evil always takes us farther than we want to go. Evil always costs us more than we want to pay. And evil will eventually rob us of what we don't want to give up. For this guy, it was his home, his family, his friends, his reputation, his dignity. But evil always takes us farther. Another thing I see in this story is he recognized Jesus. The Gospel of Mark says from a long way off. And he ran to him and he dropped down on his knees and he called him. What was it he called him? Jesus, Son of the Most High God. This guy recognized him for who he was. Sometimes we don't. I'm going to let you figure that one out for yourself. It says some things to me, but it probably will say something entirely different to you. You just figure out what life lesson that might be. Another is that poor pigs didn't do anything to deserve this, but the pigs ended up drowned. As a large herd of pigs. The herdsman ran back, told everybody. They came out to see what's going on, and there is this guy, this possessed guy, sitting there in his right mind and fully clothed. Where did he get the clothes? Well, probably Jesus' disciples gave them to him. There's another lesson, is that Jesus makes you better than you are previously. Just like evil takes you farther than you want to go, Jesus will take you farther than you ever imagined you could go. And so here they find this guy in his right mind. But then a real strange thing happens. They ask Jesus to leave. What's that all about? Wouldn't you think, I mean, if you put yourself in their shoes. Here this poor guy, maybe you knew him back when he was an upstanding member of the community. He is now clothed in his right mind and he's got it together. Wouldn't you be, yay, this guy is finally... No, they asked Jesus to leave. It scared them. it's very possible that the reason they asked him to leave was because somebody just lost a lot of money on those pigs. The life lesson there to me is I on a regular basis need to evaluate my life to see if there's anything, oh Jesus, you can have my life except for this. I don't want to give this up. I don't want to give up my pigs. Well, we've all got pigs in our lives. Something we just don't want to give up. We call Jesus Lord, but that's that thing we want to hang on to. And for these guys, it was the livelihood, the living they were making on pigs. Another thing I get out of this story is they asked Jesus to leave, and he did it. Jesus never hangs around where he's unwanted. Well, we could probably just go on and on and on, but I've probably said too much as it is. A lot of life lessons in this very peculiar story. I would encourage you to look it up. Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Great story about the man with the unclean legion of unclean spirits. And Jesus got rid of them and made him a better man than he ever thought he could be. Well, I need to leave Caledonia State Park. I got a couple of miles to walk uphill to the next shelter, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next time on Truth from the Trails.